Most people search for wealth in noise, rituals, and promises that disappear by morning. That path creates hope, then disappointment. In Shaolin philosophy, a prayer was never meant to beg the universe. It was designed to align the mind, and alignment is power. I am Shi Heng Yi. Today I will share a teaching that many misunderstand and few practice correctly. This is not about magic. This is not about shortcuts. This is about an inner discipline, so precise that a single moment of true understanding can redirect years of struggle. When the mind aligns, behavior follows naturally. When behavior changes, outcomes change without force. Very few people know this, but in Shaolin tradition, prayers were used as mental training tools. They sharpened awareness. They removed inner conflict. Monks repeated them not to receive riches, but to remove the habits that blocked abundance. Over time, those who mastered this inner order gained stability, clarity, and influence. Outsiders called it luck. Inside the temple, we called it cause and effect. In this video, you will learn why timing matters to the mind, why stillness creates opportunity, and why desperation silently destroys progress. You will learn how a single message, heard with full presence, can plant a discipline that grows quietly and steadily. This teaching feels unsettling to the ego because it removes excuses and places responsibility back where it belongs. Pause for a moment and notice how the mind feels at the beginning of a new cycle. There is a quiet softness there, a brief opening most people rush past without seeing. January does not carry power because of numbers or names. It carries power because the mind loosens its grip. Old habits feel slightly lighter. Old failures feel a little further away. In Shaolin training, this moment is recognized, not celebrated, but used. In the temple, we were taught that timing is a form of intelligence. A seed planted in frozen ground does not grow, no matter how perfect it is. The same seed, placed in receptive soil, requires little effort. The mind works the same way. At certain moments, resistance is low, direction enters easily. January is one of those moments, not because the world changes, but because attention shifts. Many believe discipline must be forced. Shaolin teachings say otherwise. True discipline begins when the mind is ready to listen. After cycles of exhaustion, disappointment, and reflection, the mind naturally asks for structure. Not excitement, not motivation, structure. When this request appears, learning accelerates. One instruction replaces 10 struggles. Inside the monastery, teachings were never given randomly. They were offered when the student's state allowed absorption. This is why the same lesson, spoken at the wrong time, sounds empty, and at the right time, sounds like truth. January often creates this readiness. The noise of constant chasing quiets. The mind looks forward instead of backward. A receptive mind does not argue. It observes. It accepts correction without humiliation. It changes direction without drama. In such a state, even simple guidance becomes transformative. A single sentence can rearrange priorities. A small practice can redefine daily behavior. This is not superstition. It is awareness. When you understand the seasons of the mind, effort becomes precise. Energy is no longer wasted. Progress feels calm, and growth begins without resistance. There is an old observation passed quietly through generations of disciplined practitioners. What lives inside eventually shapes what appears outside. When the mind is scattered, decisions are impulsive. When decisions are impulsive, effort is wasted. This is how chaos turns into poverty, not only in money, but in time, energy, and direction. Many people work endlessly, yet remain stuck, not because they lack strength, but because their inner world is disordered. Discipline is often misunderstood as punishment. In ancient training, discipline was considered an act of care. It was the method used to clean the mind, the way a craftsman clears a workspace before building something meaningful. Simple routines, repeated without emotion, begin to quiet inner noise. The mind stops jumping. attention gathers. From this stillness, clarity emerges. Clarity changes everything. When clarity appears, choices become obvious. Energy moves toward what matters instead of being scattered across distractions. Opportunities that were always present suddenly become visible. This is why two people can stand in the same place with the same resources, yet live very different lives. One sees confusion, the other sees possibility. Ancient teachings never described wealth as accumulation alone. Wealth was stability, the ability to remain calm under pressure, the capacity to act without hesitation or regret. A disciplined mind recognizes when to move and when to wait. It avoids unnecessary conflict. It invests effort where return is certain, not imagined. This inner order creates a quiet confidence. Others sense it. Trust forms naturally. Responsibility is offered. Doors open without force. From the outside, it may appear like luck or timing. From within, it feels like alignment. This is the deeper meaning of becoming rich. Not chasing more, but wasting less. Not demanding opportunity, but being prepared when it arrives. When inner chaos dissolves, the outer world reorganizes itself, and progress becomes steady, calm, and sustainable. There is a quiet truth rarely understood in a loud world. Transformation does not require repetition when awareness is complete. A single moment can change the course of a life, but only when the mind is still enough to receive it. Most people listen while thinking, judging, planning their response. In that state, words pass through without leaving a mark. Sound is heard, but meaning never arrives. In ancient training halls, listening was treated as a discipline equal to movement or breath. Years were spent learning how to be present before learning what to hear. Students were taught to empty the mind before instruction, because a full mind has no space for truth. When the inner noise settles, even simple words carry weight. They enter deeply, like an arrow released without resistance. A single sentence, received in such a state, can become a lifelong guide. It does not inspire emotion, it establishes direction. Many masters changed their path not through long speeches, but through one short correction offered at the right moment. Timing and stillness did the rest. What followed was not excitement, but quiet commitment. Most people mistake information for understanding. They collect teachings the way others collect objects. Believing more will eventually create change. But without stillness, accumulation only increases confusion. Discipline teaches restraint. It sharpens attention. It allows the mind to recognize what matters and discard what does not. When listening becomes deep, truth feels different. It does not entertain. It settles. It removes doubt rather than adding ideas. The disciplined listener senses this immediately. There is no need to agree or disagree. Action follows naturally. This is why noise exhausts and silence teaches. One requires effort, the other creates clarity. When the mind is trained to listen fully, one sentence is enough. Everything else becomes unnecessary. Before anything meaningful is built, there is a pause. This pause is not empty, it is full of awareness. In ancient training, stillness was never seen as inactivity, it was preparation. A restless mind rushes toward action, believing movement equals progress. Yet without direction, movement only drains strength. Effort scatters. Fatigue appears quickly and results remain distant. A still mind works differently. It gathers energy by refusing unnecessary motion. Attention becomes sharp, breathing deepens. The body relaxes without becoming weak. In this state, nothing is forced. Power collects naturally like water behind a dam. When action finally comes, it is precise, not frantic. One movement replaces many. One decision saves years. Old masters understood this deeply. They trained the body to move, but first trained the mind to remain unmoved. A student who could not sit calmly could not strike accurately. A warrior who acted from agitation revealed intention too early. Stillness concealed strength. It created timing. It preserved energy for the moment it mattered most. In daily life, the same principle applies. A restless mind reacts to every demand, every emotion, every distraction. Energy leaks constantly. By the end of the day, exhaustion replaces progress. A still mind chooses carefully. It engages fully, then releases. This rhythm protects strength and sharpens results. Discipline teaches restraint, not suppression. Thoughts are observed, not chased. Urgency is questioned. Action is delayed until clarity appears. When movement finally happens, it feels effortless, even though it is powerful. There is no internal resistance, no doubt pulling energy in opposite directions. This is how strength is built quietly. Energy saved becomes focus. Focus becomes skill. Skill becomes reliable results. From the outside, it may look slow. From within, it feels unstoppable. Desire becomes dangerous the moment it tightens the chest and shortens the breath. Wanting money too badly does not sharpen focus. It fractures it. The mind begins to rush. Fear quietly enters, disguised as urgency. Every decision is then filtered through anxiety, and judgment loses its balance. Choices are no longer guided by wisdom, but by the need to escape discomfort. Ancient teachings warned against attachment, not because desire is wrong, but because attachment blinds. When fear of loss dominates, the mind stops seeing clearly. It overreaches or retreats too quickly. Opportunities are either chased recklessly or ignored completely. This is how effort increases while results diminish. The struggle feels intense, yet progress remains shallow. Calm commitment is different. It is steady, not emotional. It does not beg outcomes to arrive faster. It focuses on correct action in the present moment. Discipline replaces anxiety. Patience replaces pressure. In this state, the mind remains open, flexible, and aware. Decisions are made based on reality, not desperation. Those trained in inner mastery learn to separate intention from attachment. The goal is acknowledged, but the heart does not cling to it. This freedom removes fear. Without fear, the mind becomes sharp again. Patterns are noticed. Timing improves. Mistakes decrease, not because effort increased, but because clarity returned. Desperation narrows vision. Calmness expands it. A composed mind sees options others miss. It senses when to advance and when to wait. It recognizes false opportunities that promise quick relief but demand long-term sacrifice. Strength is conserved. Direction stays intact. When desperation leaves, something subtle happens. Breathing slows. Thoughts align. Confidence becomes quiet and stable. Action follows naturally without inner resistance. This is not indifference, it is trust in process over panic. From this space, progress becomes sustainable, and results arrive without forcing the world to respond. True prayer was never spoken outward for others to hear. It was directed inward where decisions are born. Ancient practitioners understood that words repeated in silence shape the mind more deeply than requests made aloud. An inner command is not a wish, it is an instruction. When the mind accepts it, behavior adjusts without resistance. Responsibility is the first command. Not blame, not guilt, but ownership. The moment a person accepts responsibility, excuses lose their power. Energy stops leaking into complaint and begins to gather around action. Life is no longer something that happens to you, it becomes something you participate in consciously. Discipline follows naturally, not harsh control, but consistent alignment. Acting with discipline means doing what must be done even when emotion is absent. It is the quiet repetition of correct behavior. Over time, this repetition rewires the nervous system. What once required effort becomes automatic. The mind no longer debates, it acts. Respect for time and effort completes the inner command. Time is treated as finite. Effort is directed, not wasted. Small actions are no longer dismissed as insignificant. Each moment becomes a deposit rather than an expense. This respect creates patience, and patience creates endurance. Habits form in this space, not dramatic changes, but stable ones. Wake times settle, focus deepens, choices simplify. These habits quietly shape outcomes. Income is not chased. It grows as a reflection of reliability, skill, and consistency. Others begin to trust what is steady. This is how inner language reshapes outer life. Thoughts become instructions. Instructions become habits. Habits become results. What appears as financial growth is simply the visible effect of internal order. When prayer becomes command and command becomes practice, progress no longer depends on hope. It becomes inevitable. Motivation is a visitor. It arrives suddenly, speaks loudly, and leaves without warning. Many people wait for it before they begin and stop when it disappears. Ancient training never relied on such instability. What endures is structure. Structure does not excite the mind, but it protects progress when emotion fades. Daily structure was the foundation of disciplined life. The body woke at the same hour. The practice began whether the mind agreed or resisted. This repetition was not rigid for control's sake. It created reliability. When actions became predictable, energy stopped being wasted on decision-making. The mind grew quiet, focus deepened. Emotional highs promise speed but deliver inconsistency. They encourage bursts of effort followed by long periods of neglect. Structure moves differently. It advances slowly, almost unnoticed, yet it never retreats. Each small action stacks upon the last. Days link together. Momentum forms without drama. Consistency is where wealth takes root. Not only financial wealth, but skill, trust, and stability. When effort is repeated daily, skill compounds. When promises are kept regularly, trust grows. When time is respected, opportunity expands. These are not sudden gains. They are accumulations that resist loss. Ancient practitioners understood that structure outlives desire. A system remains when enthusiasm vanishes. This is why training continued during doubt, fatigue, and boredom. These moments were not obstacles. They were tests of alignment. Passing them strengthened resolve. A structured life removes dependence on mood. Action becomes automatic. Progress becomes reliable. Results arrive steadily, without exhaustion. From the outside, this appears unremarkable. From within, it feels unshakable. Where consistency lives, growth follows. Not quickly, not dramatically, but permanently. This is how discipline outpaces motivation. This is how stability becomes success. True mastery begins, not with what is outside, but with what is within. The body, the first vessel of experience, must be trained to respond without hesitation or weakness. In the monasteries, the body was not punished, but guided. Movement became deliberate. Posture became steady. Each step and gesture was a lesson in awareness, a reminder that strength begins with control. Breath follows the body, yet carries its own power. Control of the breath is control of energy, of focus, of presence. In stillness, the breath anchors the mind. In motion, it drives intention. Monks learn to observe it, to lengthen it, to deepen it, until every action is supported by its rhythm. A mind attached to shallow, chaotic breath cannot act decisively. A mind aligned with its breath becomes unshakable. The mind itself is the final frontier. Thought arises like clouds, often dark, often fleeting. Control does not mean suppression, but clarity. It is the ability to choose which thoughts to follow, which to release, which to observe without judgment. A disciplined mind sees opportunity, avoids distraction, and maintains calm when the world shifts unpredictably. This mastery over body, breath, and mind is considered greater wealth than gold. Gold can vanish, gold can be stolen or squandered, mastery cannot. It is permanent, portable, and intimately yours. It offers freedom in every circumstance. A person who possesses this inner wealth moves through life with confidence, undisturbed by chaos or fortune. Others may chase treasures outside, yet the truly rich never search. They have already cultivated abundance within. In Shaolin culture, this teaching is rarely spoken outside the monastery, yet it forms the foundation of all other achievements. External success follows internal mastery naturally, without force. Control of the self is not only protection, it is opportunity, it is stability, it is enduring wealth. It is a quiet tragedy. Tireless effort spent in struggle, yet progress remains minimal. Many push their bodies, chase goals, and endure hardship, yet the results evade them. The reason is often invisible. The mind, untrained and unsettled, resists the very actions it directs. Energy leaks in tension, doubt, and distraction, turning labor into exhaustion rather than creation. Effort becomes friction instead of force. Ancient Shaolin wisdom teaches that action without alignment is like rowing against the current. The body may move, but the current pulls back. True efficiency comes only when the mind, the body, and the breath flow together in harmony. Inner alignment is not decoration. It is the foundation of mastery. It prepares the ground so that every movement, every decision carries weight instead of waste. Monks trained first in stillness, observation, and presence. Only after the mind had settled were they instructed in movement. A step taken in agitation scattered power. A strike executed in fear lost precision. But a step taken from clarity, from readiness, from alignment, delivered energy fully. Effort then multiplied naturally. Work became creation. Progress followed without strain. In daily life, the same principle applies. Planning without presence produces confusion. Doing without reflection invites errors. Acting from misalignment drains stamina and obscures opportunity. Inner discipline shapes thought patterns, calms impulses, and sharpens attention. When alignment is established, tasks feel lighter, and results grow disproportionately to effort. This is why some thrive while others falter under equal labor. It is not the hours that matter, it is the harmony behind them. When the inner world is ordered, external work becomes a channel, not a battle. Energy flows instead of leaking, and effort becomes not a cost, but a multiplier of results. The smallest choices often determine the largest outcomes. Rising with intention, even before the world stirs, is more than a habit, it is a statement of control. The body follows the mind's command, and the mind follows its own agreements. To wake when promised is to honor oneself, to show that inner commitments are not negotiable. This simple act begins to realign the flow of energy, setting the tone for the day, the week, and the months that follow. Promises to oneself carry quiet power. When fulfilled consistently, they build trust between thought and action. When broken, even once, subtle doubt creeps in. Ancient training emphasized small victories first. Keep the posture, maintain the breath, complete the task. Over time, these repeated acts created an unshakable rhythm. One who mastered these rhythms could face complexity without faltering, because their foundation had been built in silence, with patience. Calmness under pressure is the next layer. Life often imposes sudden demands, unexpected challenges, and unseen obstacles. Without discipline, anxiety overtakes clarity, and instinct replaces strategy. The quiet mind, trained in subtle mastery, reacts with composure. Decisions emerge naturally, and energy is directed where it is most effective. The world may rush around, but the steady mind shapes opportunity from turbulence. These practices seem almost mundane at first, yet their effect accumulates invisibly. Days, weeks, months of consistent self-mastery redirect financial paths, not through luck or dramatic effort, but through alignment. Each act of integrity, each calm choice, each fulfilled promise compounds. Wealth, in its truest sense, grows quietly alongside inner order. Through these small, disciplined actions, life begins to follow the natural law of cause and effect. The inner world strengthens and the outer world responds. Fortune becomes less a chance and more a reflection of the mind's stability, persistence, and subtle mastery. The path of true mastery is uncomfortable because it leaves nothing to hide behind. Excuses, chance, and shortcuts are illusions that cushion the ego. Remove them, and the mind stands bare, confronted with one undeniable truth. Everything begins and ends with personal responsibility. Ancient teachers understood this well. In the monastery, no one promised easy results. Success was not measured by external wealth, but by the consistency and clarity of action. This clarity is not always welcomed. The ego resists accountability. It whispers that failure is the fault of circumstances, people, or luck. It seeks comfort in hope, in shortcuts, in half measures. These are safe, familiar traps. To step beyond them is to risk the familiar, to face the tension of direct responsibility. Many turn away, not because the path is impossible, but because it removes the comforting illusion of chance. The disciplined mind reacts differently. It does not fear the absence of shortcuts. It does not grieve the loss of excuses. It recognizes freedom in this simplicity. Responsibility is not a burden. It is power. Control over the self transforms effort into influence. Each action, deliberate and aligned, shapes outcomes steadily. The mind becomes a tool, precise and dependable, rather than a passenger tossed by circumstance. Ancient teachings often emphasize that mastery begins internally before it appears externally. To master the world, one must first master desire, fear, and distraction. This internal discipline demands courage, patience, and honesty. Over time, the habitual alignment of thought, breath, and action removes hesitation. The world responds not to luck, but to presence, preparation, and deliberate effort. The irony is subtle. What feels hardest at first, complete responsibility, is what ultimately brings ease. When excuses fall away, the path becomes clear. The ego fears this clarity, but the disciplined mind welcomes it. Strength is born in the space where comfort ends and mastery begins. True wealth is rarely found in sudden gain, and instant money is never the measure of lasting success. What these teachings offer is something deeper: instant clarity. When the mind is disciplined, calm, and aligned, decisions flow naturally, energy is directed with purpose, and life begins to reorganize itself without struggle. Richness does not start in the world outside, it starts within. Habits, focus, and presence shape not only opportunity, but the way one experiences each moment. As the inner world changes, the outer world inevitably follows. Take a moment each day to practice stillness, honor your commitments, and act with quiet discipline. In these small, consistent steps, transformation unfolds, gently but permanently. Allow this wisdom to guide your path, and notice how life responds when clarity replaces chaos. If you found value in this teaching, like this video and subscribe to Heng Yi Chronicles, where the journey of inner mastery and mindful living continues in every lesson. Peace and steadiness can always be found, even in the midst of life's challenges.